what are you all doing in there? Yeah, I know that was really corny, but I had to do it. So I asked Alan if there were any reminders that he thought everybody should know. Moving forward, just as something different. And since the mechanics are kind of the eye in the sky, they watch everybody get ready in the morning. They secretly judge every single one of you who drive around that farm. Whether or not you stall, whether you're running into chippers or trailers when you're backing up, who checks oil properly, who checks fluids, who actually checks their lights before they leaves, and I hear about it. But one thing, for today anyway, one thing is properly checking oil. He said a lot of guys don't check the oil in trucks properly, and it shows when they come in for service and they're low. So, very simply, oil dipstick. Pull it out, wipe it off, then put it back in. Is the only way to get a proper reading of your oil. My truck happens to be hot at the moment, so it's reading pretty high. If it was cold, it'd be right on the money because Alan just serviced it. But checking a truck in the morning, he said a lot of guys pull the dipstick out, see that there's oil on it, and stick it back in there. Yes, that does show you there's oil on it, however, it's not giving you a proper reading. And like I said, when he gets them in for service, he can tell who's checking their oil properly and who's not. So that's it. A few other things, or one other thing. You're all getting a tailgate this morning on job briefings, and actually forget the title of the meeting right now. Pretty sure it's job briefings. Okay, job briefings are required on every job that we do in tree care and landscaping. All right, they're required and they should be documented. I heard a great story from Travis Vickerson, who works for a company called Chippers up in New England area, and they had an incident a few years ago where a climber fell. It was a big ta-da. There was EMS there. The climber was severely injured. OSHA showed up. The police were there. It was a mess. First thing OSHA asked them was for their job briefing, for their documented job site analysis, or job briefing, whatever you want to call it. And luckily for them, they had it, and it was documented. Everybody had signed it, and it made everything go a lot smoother with that process. That being said, job briefings are not a fail-safe. They're not going to prevent anything from happening. Putting your name on a piece of paper does not force you to do anything. There was a severe incident at this company, at our company, probably about 3 weeks ago now, and it involved one of our tree crews, a crane, and a tree on a house. There was a lot of things went wrong in that job. I mean, like, a lot of things went wrong in that job. It was a snowball effect of bad decisions on multiple people. And after all of that, you can pretty much trace everything back to there was no job briefing done. Now, I don't need, and I don't even want everybody to take 15 or 20 minutes before every job and go through this comprehensive 6-page checkbox process. That's not what I want. The JSAs on your work orders are as basic as we can make them and still have all the information on there that we need to have. That being said, back to that incident, there was no job briefing. There was no conversation. There was no, hey, let's look at this quick, get a game plan before we move on. And that was the first step in that job getting snowballed into the almost catastrophic incident that it was. I mean, it was severe by anybody's definition, but it was as close to catastrophic as I ever want to get at this company. But the job briefing, there was none. There was no conversation. I talked to the crane operator. There was no game plan. I talked to the crew leader. There was no game plan. They just showed up, set up, and started cutting. And that was their biggest, in my opinion, the biggest mistake made on that whole job. Of all the bad decisions, of all the poor rigging, of all the poor setup, of all the poor cuts, not having a job briefing and not getting a game plan before anything was done was the worst. That was the first and worst mistake of that whole process. So when you do that tailgate meeting this morning, I want you to try to think, and you can do this out loud, you can do it as a group, but think of an incident that happened, or an injury that happened, or some job that went haywire, and I bet if you think back, you didn't do a proper job briefing, didn't have a game plan before you started, you got to a certain point in the job and you were kind of like, oh, I hope this works, we really didn't talk about it. A lot of times incidents get traced right back to the job briefing and not having a game plan. Somebody didn't know what they were supposed to be doing. They didn't know the tools they should have been using. They didn't know the procedure involved. A lot of frustration can be saved with doing a quick 5 to 10 minute, hey, this is what we're doing, this is where I need you to be, this is where the trucks need to be, job briefing. It can be so simple, but it can save so much time. It could possibly save someone's life, and in the case of a few weeks ago, it can save thousands and thousands of dollars. So that's all I'm going to bore you with today. Thanks for hanging out under my hood. It's very convenient having you here to talk to. You know, just whenever, if I want to pop the hood open, you guys are going to be there. So that's really cool. But have a great Friday. I'll see you guys around, and take care.